Usually I leave class at around 1 p.m, so after that I usually quickly grab something to lunch. Sometimes I pack my lunch before I leave the house and eat at college, and other times I go back home and cook something light before I head out. Today I went back home and just prepared a very quick salad while checking my bullet journal. I keep a list with all of my tasks and reading materials in my bullet journal, so I try to update it as frequently as I can, just to understand how productive I was throughout the day and whether I'm going to be able to tackle all of the items in my to-do list before the end of the day. Either at the library or at home, my schoolwork mainly consists on reading, so that's always my big priority for the day. I open the reading materials on margin note, which I've talked to you about before, import the documents, and then start highlighting the most relevant parts. I try to use different colors as much, either as a color code for differently themed information or just to separate parts of the text so I can easily divide sentences and arguments. A good way to work thoroughly on a document is just writing down your opinions on the margins. That doesn't mean you necessarily need to describe that opinion in class, but the fact that you assess your readings in a critical instead of a passive way means you will be able to interpret and analyze the readings and therefore be more prepared to comment on them. I will be doing a reading skills video that will be uploaded next week, so stay on the lookout for that. My readings always take most of my time, so I try to compensate with a bit of planning and other minor tasks. Usually I'll read for blocks of 1 hour and then get up and do a few small tasks around the house, or in this case reply to some emails, check on my calendar and browse through my social media. After finishing my first document, I will pull up OneNote and create a page with the name of the document and then write some quick notes referring to what I've just read. It actually works as a guideline for me to have in class and understand the facts and main arguments of the text or case I just read. It's also very helpful to have during exams or while writing my final papers, since most of the readings get easily forgotten, and going through these outlines is a quick way to remember the most important key points. If I'm able to finish my readings, I then either try to read materials for the next week just to get a head start, or go back to past seminars and notes and do a more thorough analysis of what I've read. I try to have just small study sessions for this, so sometimes I grab a few textbooks with extra non-mandatory materials and try to complete and organize the information I have, adding a few bits and pieces to my old notes and organize them better for future reference. I also keep a separate section in my OneNote notebook where I brainstorm ideas, topics, and themes for my final evaluation papers. So I try to get a head start as soon as I can and structure my work in the neatest way I can before the deadline is approaching. For this, I usually create my own deadlines in my calendar or bullet journal. Usually, I save a few days for brainstorming and topic researching, then a few more days to create a first draft in bullet form, and if I can, another full week for a full-on first draft. I then do 2 sessions of revising and referencing before I turn the paper in. I'm also participating in a moot contest this year, so that requires a bit of extra work every day. For me, that consists on rereading at least a few pages of the problem and do some research on interpretation for international treaties and conventions. This is usually the last thing I do on a typical day, except if there's a big deadline coming up, which requires a different hierarchy since some tasks can be prioritized over the others. After my study is over, I then grab my bullet journal, open my calendar and plan for the day ahead, having in account what I've done during that day. Being consistent with your planning and the way you organize even the smallest tasks is just a good way to make sure you keep a good pace when reading and studying and still keeping track of other events. So this is all for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it and I'll see you next week. Bye!